like many of you here, have had to fight tooth and nail to get to where I am today. And indeed, I know that this is a cause, and you're all familiar with it, this is a cause that really lies at the heart of the organization's leadership, which is displayed. And we're honored here to have the Executive Secretary of the CTBTO, Dr. Robert Floyd, on the front row here, in the passion and his dedication to making sure that women have a seat at the table and their voices are being heard. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our speakers one by one, and they'll be sharing their insights after I've introduced them with you. And then we will open it up to the floor. I'd like to start with Anne Licher. She's a powerhouse in the field of science and technology, and she is the COO of NorSAR. That's the designated Norwegian National Data Center, NDC, for the CTBT. She's got 3 decades of experience, more than 3 decades. That's in the oil and gas sector, and she's held really high-level positions in leading energy companies. Now, she is, and I will say this about you, Anne, you are a visionary leader, and your influence truly extends beyond the work that you've done with NorSAR. She's been involved in various initiatives, boards, and there's one in particular that's relevant to us, and that's the Young Professional Network, the YPN. And thank you so much for being with us. The floor is yours.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting us and shed the light on the Young Professionals Network. You know, when I started to work in NorSAR almost 10 years ago now, and it's a fantastic team, but we tended to grow a little older. So we were through a generation shift, and what I saw when I came here was that the team has a fantastic network of international experts and friends. And the CTBTO is kind of a family affair in many ways. Because as Dr. Floyd said in the opening, we are stronger together. And that togetherness was something that was imperative for our young to find their place in this community. And we got the idea to start the Young Professionals Network. And the idea was simply and very egoistically actually to make them an international network rather fast. So it's an informal network. Anybody with the technical affiliation or background can be a member. Norway has sponsored this for some time, and we have now grown to 100 members from 40 countries. And what is especially nice to see is that the whole globe is represented there now. And there are lots of young women, and we saw some of them in the side event the other morning, and I'm so impressed with what they can do. So this is, okay, thank you. I'm a little smaller than it. We are very impressed with what they can do and what they can do together. And they do it together. We just facilitated this, and they decide themselves the program, how to, and have some physical gatherings. But of course, the pandemic learned us how to meet on Teams. And then we have a lot of friends in the room, so many of the senior experts has volunteered to become mentors into this network, and that is also a very informal, low-key way to extend the experiences that my generation have into the young. But the young is free to organize this themselves, and they do. And it got some traction, and I'm very proud of that. So thank you for inviting us.
Truly something to be proud of, 100 members from 40 countries. And as Anne said, this initiative was brought together, going back to the words of Dr. Floyd, so that we can be stronger together. Up next, we have Rengin Gok, and actually, I've just learned that Rengin is also Iranian. Her name means colorful, and a colorful career she's had. Rengin is a geophysicist and seismic expert currently serving, I'm going to read this because it's rather lengthy, as the technical advisor to the Nuclear Detonation Detection R&D program at the US Department of Energy. May have had to practice that a few times, Rengin. And she's had quite a career, as I mentioned, including a fellowship at the Kandili Observatory and Earthquake Research Institute in Turkey, where she played a critical role in establishing the first real-time seismic network in eastern Turkey, if I'm not mistaken. And her work is really focused on international seismic engagement and building partner capacity for the implementation of the CTBT, and that's not all. Throughout her career, she's been connecting, and that's why we're here today at SnT, to connect experts across the globe and to hopefully pave the way, like she has done, for seismic hazard and risk modeling. Rengin, you have the mic. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks, Anna, and thanks for the invite to CTBTO. It's a privilege to be in front of this group and definitely in the stage. I guess I want to touch a little bit on some keywords that I always think that sharing them with young professionals is important. And in my experience throughout this journey, when I look back, what worked for me, what was the key takeaways that I would share with the young professionals. I'll just give some examples. So I've been working with international groups that now I see in the room. They were young, and like me, we aged all together. They were family to me, all over from Central Asia, Caucasus, Middle East. And I guess what makes people excited and interested in doing science is my advice is always find something that most interest to you. And today we have a lot of opportunities to grab what is the interest to us. If anything, go to social media and follow and find something to interest you. Because if you're interested in a topic, then it's never too hard to pursue a career. It's always uplifting and never feels like too much work. As well as curiosity, hard work. I am a true believer of hard work. It makes hard work that puts things together, and attention to detail, and putting everything together and doing a good work definitely requires hard work. And throughout my career, I had mentorship, great mentors that helped me. And I think teamwork is another key player. If anything you want to do, is always better together. That has been something we have interns coming to the Livermore Lab, and now today with NNSA, we have internship programs. We invite people from minority study institutions. They do summer program with us. It's program leaders and a government, and it's incredible opportunity. This is giving them a very good speed train to what happens in the end. It's how high-level jobs work, and those opportunities are important for young professionals to follow up and engage with. Maybe I should stop here if others have more to add on to it.
Thank you, Rengin. We'll come back to you with more questions. I actually love that tip, and I think I really agree with Rengin. Find something that you're passionate about and knock on those doors, even through social media, as you said. And on that note, please do be tweeting about this session, #SnT2023. And the other thing to make sure you do is, if there are young women in this room, if you do want to embark on these careers, do pursue the initiatives. We have an incredible one that was launched. Marius will be talking about it later. That's the CTBTO mentoring program. So make sure you take advantage of all these opportunities. Now we have on the panel Gabby Voigt. She's a distinguished biologist currently lecturing on radioecology at the Technical University of Vienna. I can see you from that corner. With over 30 years of experience in radiation protection, nuclear sciences, and environmental management, she has left an indelible mark on the field. Not only has Gabby excelled professionally, and that's one of the many reasons we have her on this panel here today, she has been championing EVA for gender parity, and she's actively been participating in quite a few initiatives and networks such as WIN and PW. And Gabby, it's so wonderful to have you here. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much also for inviting my organization. I'm representing here Women in Nuclear Global to this distinguished panel. I'm really happy to be here with you and share some of the ideas, and maybe we can have even some more discussions afterwards because the time is very limited. Now, Women in Nuclear actually started more than 35 years ago, and the origin was a group of women, and there are so few women, not only in STEM, in nuclear, there are even fewer women, who came together and said we should do something. So it was kind of a club. In the meantime, I have registered Women in Nuclear in Austria, a nuclear organization in Austria, here. Was not easy, but it's legally registered as an international NGO, non-profit, and we have more than 35,000 members in over 145 countries, which means it's almost as large as the membership of the IEA, which is very good, because we are reaching out to our members when there is recruitment requested by the IEA. Maybe that's also something you should consider for CTBTO. So we are working, we have our executive committee, the president presently, and I convene her best wishes here, Dominique Moyot. She's presently from France. We are trying to circulate also the presidentship and the executives to represent the different regions of the world. And we are running with also expert groups. So at the moment, we have 8 presently: women in security, women in health, women in emergency preparedness. So you can see it's reflecting actually the activities nuclear sciences is doing. And it's not only nuclear energy. There are so many other areas where nuclear are contributing to make life better and easier. And often this is forgotten because in the discussion in the open, it's always nuclear terrorism, nuclear threats, but it's forgotten that there are a lot of very positive traits in nuclear. So now coming to the young generation, we are having a special group of young women, more than 160 members presently from 40 countries, so it's also very good country distribution, and they are doing special events supported by financially also by our executive board. We're working closely together with Thomas Thor Associates. It's a nuclear recruiting company, so to provide careers for, and specifically in the earlier career, to find jobs. We work very closely with the IEA, Marie Curie Skłodowska scholarship, Lise Meitler scholarship you have heard. And then we do, as usual, mentorship has been mentioned before. We do also courses in leadership to empower young women to get more confidence, and then we link it to more experienced women who can help them in their career and even provide possibilities for further career development and education. And with this, I think there is so much more to say, but I leave it, otherwise the 5 minutes will be overstretched. Thank you.
And I'm very strict with that. Thank you very much, Gabby. Just going back to what Gabby mentioned earlier, of course, the CTBTO is very much involved in initiatives with our member states, our state signatories, but largely with the entire international community. I mentioned something earlier, which was the CTBTO mentoring program. We have the incredible CTBTO youth group, and of course, we're encouraging more representation, geographical representation, with the people that we're bringing on board to work with the organization. And actually that beautifully ties in with our last but not least panelist. I'd like you to meet Marius Jano, the lone ranger on our panel, bravely navigating the world of STEM alongside these fierce women who are representing here. You're a good man, Marius. Now, as the associate editor, not editor, that's my job, outreach officer at the CTBTO, Marius brings a really unique perspective. And for me, I think he proves that when it comes to promoting gender parity, he's not just a man of his world, but he's a man of action. Now, throughout his career, Marius has co-organized several youth conferences held here in Vienna, in Astana, in Moscow, and hopefully there'll be many more of them. He's also successfully coordinated various programs, and you'll be hearing this again because I've been speaking about it from the beginning of the talk. The Citizen Journalism Academy was one of them, the CTBTO Research Fellowship, and of course, my favorite of all, the first edition of the incredible CTBTO mentoring program. Marius, you have the floor.
Thank you, Sanam, and I'm sure I would not be able to describe myself much better than, than this. Thank you for inviting me in this panel and for giving me the opportunity to present a number of initiatives from the CTBTO to support youth engagement, but also women in STEM. I'll try not to be very repetitive because you have heard many things throughout these 3 days. Probably you have heard also that there are 300 staff members working for the CTBTO, and coming from 90 countries with different backgrounds, but they all work together for a common goal. The truth is that many of them have come from technical or scientific niches with technical backgrounds. And this is the reason why CTBTO cannot afford leaving anyone out. And that is why this is a priority for the CTBTO to support and to improve gender parity at the organization, but also to support more youth engagement. There are many initiatives from the CTBTO in order to improve these balances. They start from minor ones, let's say, not having any more panels with only men, to trainings organized from the capacity building training section of CTBTO, but also larger initiatives such as the CTBTO youth group. Many of you are familiar with the group, but just very shortly, the CTBTO youth group is a network comprised of 1,300 members now from 125 countries around the world, that young professional students that have dedicated their academic, their studies, but also their professional career to global peace and security, and in particular the promoting the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty and other nuclear disarmament issues. Since 2016 that it was established, the youth group has become the go-to organization for all young people that would like to learn more about nuclear disarmament. The youth group has provided them the platform to learn, to connect with each other, to participate at conferences, to engage. Not only with each other, but not only among themselves, but also with higher level eminent figures in this field. As I said, there are 1,300 members now. Many of them joined the youth group when they were 17 or 18 years old, and now many of them have started their own career. And something that they have in common is that they continue, even though they have started their own career, working either for the CTBTO or other international organizations, ministries for their capitals, embassies. They continue to engage either with a youth group or continue to engage with the CTBTO or promoting the treaty. I will not continue longer. Hundreds of members have participated at events organized by CTBTO. We have tried to not only to invite them as audience, but our goal is basically to give them the possibility to be equal in the conversation as panelists, speakers, as presenters. We have a very good example that I would like to highlight, which is Maggie Wanyaga, our youth group member from the very first days with the youth group from Kenya. She gave a speech to the United Nations Security Council on CTBT. And I don't think there are many people in the entire building that have had this possibility. So this is a way how this is a way how we believe we can boost and encourage youth to engage more. And here, since I mentioned, if I have only one more minute, So since I
30
mentioned
seconds,
Maggie,
Marius.
I would like to jump to the second point I would like to make, that youth group eventually has supported and had an impact also when it comes to women, in particular women in STEM from the global south. One activity and one initiative that, as Anna mentioned, is the CTBTO mentoring program that is supporting early career women in STEM. And you can learn more about the program actually tomorrow at 10 o'clock, that we have a human resources session at 10 o'clock, and there is going to be one part of that dedicated only to the mentoring program for early career women in STEM. And with this,
Thank you, Marius. Just have one takeaway from that. We can't afford to leave anyone out, and that's why today we do not have a manel, but we have a wanel. So we're very proud of this. Now that we've heard from our esteemed panelists, it's time to turn the spotlight on you. This is a great opportunity. If you can all raise your hands and post some questions to our panelists, please go ahead. I think someone needs to bring your mic. Chiara, if you can bring a mic, that would be great.
Thank you. Thank you so much. My name is Yasmin Espinosa. I have a question for all panelists in general, but especially to Marius, that I found very interesting his presentation. Having been engaging in different international organizations here in Vienna, including CTBTO, I had seen the constant effort that had been made in order to include female into the organization. But something that I feel that is still pending is how to promote the inclusion of people with disabilities. I think that is still a pending challenge, I think, for all international organizations alike. Currently, I belong to a network at the UN in Vienna of disability inclusion, and we had been working recently to try to promote practices and policies to promote professionals, not only with physical disabilities, but the whole spectrum of different conditions. So I would be very interested to know what a step had been taken to try to promote professionals with different disabilities, including also other health conditions that might be relevant. Thank you so much.
Before we go to Marius, if I may for a moment, this is such an important question, and it's one that we're really trying to address increasingly at the core of the organization. When it comes to employment opportunities, of course, there are no discriminations when it comes to geographical representation, the gender or disabilities. And actually at SnT here, and I believe this is a first, we do have signs now on the table so that we can provide seating, for example, for people with disabilities. And of course, we have been having some discussions on the sidelines about promoting this more so. We are now retweeting the post that you're posting to make sure this is getting more visibility, but this is just the beginning of the path, Marius. If you want to, I'll give you 30 seconds to address that so we can have some other questions. I took up your time this time, but I can because I'm a woman.
thank you. Actually, I'm very happy that I get to answer this question, because I personally have worked with Yasmin. We were both interns in the same section at the CTBTO, so I totally understand her concern. And if I could say only one thing very quickly is that how we can solve this situation maybe starts from the recruitment process. And I believe that the CTBTO is taking all the necessary steps to make sure there is no discrimination during the recruitment process. And of course, I totally agree with Sanam that everything that we saw at SnT when it comes to spaces that were organized specifically for people with disabilities, I think this is a major step and excellent. Thank you.
Please go ahead, Gabby.
Thank you. Now, we don't have any specific program as such, and I am not aware of any of the organizations I know, like IEA, but we call ourselves, we are diverse. So diversity for me includes also disabilities, sexual orientation, and we had the Pride Parade just last weekend, so that's inclusive. And in the end, in my former institute, actually, and this is something to think about, there was a quota to have quota for women and quota also for disabled people. So something to think about. Just a small comment.
Thank you, Gabby. I have time for one more question. And if you don't have one, then I can just put a question to each of our panelists. And this time I'll be even more strict, 20 seconds each. If you have to leave our participants or those joining us online with one thought about how to pursue a career in STEM, considering all the challenges that women face in these fields, what would that one line be? Anne, please.
Have fun and do something important. I mean, you cannot do, as a scientist, something more important than actually help preserve peace on Earth. And that's what we do. And we do it together in a very motivating and fantastic community. So go away, have fun, and be excellent, and doors will open for you.
Have fun. It's brilliant. And Angin.
Maybe I'll take the other side now. Us who has developed career, what we can do for one thing. I guess they mentioned inclusiveness. Inclusion is very important at anywhere we go. I think attracting young people or different diverse groups is only possible if we include them in our either meetings, conversations, or whatever we pursue.
Inclusion in discussions. Next one, Gabby.
I think what is important is, and that's for general life, do it with passion. And if you have the passion, you will succeed. And with this, I stop.
Marius.
I would say be curious and always ask the question. So I know it might sound very, very difficult, but many lives have changed just by asking one question. So even when you are in a conference like this, if you have an idea or if you have a question, just make sure to reach out to everyone and ask your question if it's possible, because it could be possible, but just no one is asking a question.
Now I'm going to freestyle this. I wasn't sure if the executive secretary was going to come here. It's your turn, boss.
I couldn't agree more with each of those slices of life. Is that, for me, passion, Gabby, absolutely, is that let's do things that we're passionate about, things that really matter, that are of consequence. But the picture about inclusion and also, you know, your comment in particular, I think just brings that to the fore, that if we're really going to achieve something ambitious, like a world free of nuclear tests and even nuclear weapons, then we've got to do it together. And we need to be inclusive for all dimensions. So inspired by each of you. Anne is amazing that she has a vision, but she's an implementer. Is that she doesn't just have a vision, but she makes it happen. So to each of you, thank you so much. Very inspiring to hear you. Sanam, excellent job. Let's give them all a round of applause.
And on that note, this panel started as a discussion about female and young experts, but let's expand that. More inclusion, geographical representation, women, age groups, and people with disabilities. Thank you so much for being with us.